I want to ask you about the tech routes. I mean, we keep on watching the NASDAQ sell off, big technology names, and there's no real reprieve. Even if people buy back into some of these stocks, then sell off the next day. Your company is in a unique space, massive contracts with security companies, with agencies in the United States, government agencies, but your stock is still sold off as well. What do you make of what we're witnessing right now? Is it just a brief period or something much worse than that?
I think that at Palantir, what we're focused on is continuing focusing on growth for our customers. So I think we're trying to not be distracted by what's going on in the markets and sort of focusing on delivering.
That's all well and good, but I mean, Sequoia just put out a report saying cost cutting is key for some of the startup companies. You need to revisit these business models. You're basically in a melting pot and you've got to convert yourself into something more resilient. That's not just being focused on what you're doing in the business, that's a complete rethink.
I mean, it's one report, but I think what we're doing is actually just saying exactly what Sequoia is saying we're helping our customers doing. So we're focusing on helping them reduce costs, become more efficient, and get more out of the value in the data that they already have. And that's something that actually, because of some of the downturns, some of the global crises that we've seen, especially around supply chain and other things, we've seen actually people turning to, we need technological solutions and we need to have data-driven solutions so we actually understand what we're doing, what we're spending our money on, and where it's going. And so if you look at some of our customers, we're getting a lot of requests for, okay, we've had supply chain disruptions. Can you help us get more visibility, given information that's out there and exists on how we can best adapt to that to continue delivering customer value? So I think people are looking at tech from at least the customer perspective, which is where I sit, as how can we use your solutions and products to help us through this period, and looking at more as an opportunity rather than a negative.
Before we move on from the changing landscape, I just want to follow up on this because regulators are pushing back around market dominance with antitrust measures here in Europe in particular, but also potentially in the United States. And there is one view out there that this market turmoil means that the large companies just get larger. And someone said to me on the sidelines, look, what does Palantir do? I mean, where's their edge? AWS, Microsoft, they do all this and arguably might do a better job of it. So does this landscape mean that other bigger competitors have a much stronger position than you do at this stage?
I would actually say the opposite. I think, we partner very, very closely with both AWS and Microsoft. We don't view them as competitors. We view them as partners, and we coexist at all of our clients. At basically any client that's on the cloud, we have to coexist with Google, Microsoft, or AWS. So we coexist harmoniously at over 250 customers, and that's been since our inception and since cloud has become prevalent. What I would say is that, again, it's looking at companies are being smarter about what they're spending on. So how can we get a direct return on our investment in this technological solution that we're buying and investing in? And I think you're seeing that with some of the announcements that came out around Palantir this week with some of our partnerships, is that people and organizations that we've been partnering with are doubling down because they're seeing the returns. And especially at a time when you need to create efficiencies in your business and make sure that there's no dollar that goes, not well spent. We're in a fortunate position to help them deliver on that.
Talk to me about data again, because look, the concept of using data that's out there and collecting it and harvesting it and actually using it for common good, it has been exhibited via COVID as well. But there are also a lot of us out there as well who have real objections to our data being used as well. Has that debate moved on at all? Has the regulatory debate moved on about balancing the common good to actually the personal aspects of that, where we just don't want our data used by big corp?
Yeah, I think what you see is that people have a different understanding of data now than they did pre-COVID. Because what you see happen, be it through vaccine distribution, be it through supply chain disruption, be it through the ongoing war in Ukraine, there's been a huge number of disruptions, and people still want their vaccines. Well, most people. People still want their PPE, need their PPE equipment. People want to buy cars. They want to continue to fly on planes. And so what you're seeing there, especially given what's happening with semiconductor shortages and supply chain disruptions, is making data-driven operational decisions is important, but also we need to be able to react quickly to what we see in the world. So when there is a supply chain disruption or when there is a COVID or pandemic breakout, we need to help organizations use the data that they already have and partner with other organizations to be able to effectively manufacture enough.
I think there are some very big concerns about it, but actually I want to ask you about something that potentially could be very positive. And I know that a lot of the great and the good here in Davos are trying to keep the climate initiative, net zero, on track as well. And someone said to me, actually, the use of data in this battle is in the foothills compared to where it should be as well. Tell me how big data can actually help save this planet from a climate disaster.
I think big data can help partner with organizations to help their carbon tracking and other things. So what you see right now is there's no, and actually it's interesting you bring this up because in one of the WEF discussions I was in yesterday, it was around how do you make hyper-connected ecosystems, so around sustainability and around data sharing between organizations, governments, private and public institutions. And what you see there is what you need to be able to do is accurately track an organization's carbon emission and carbon tracking. And so you can do that by having transparent data about what you're doing there. We can't solve the problem. We can certainly help inform those who are solving the problem by giving them honest, integral information.